Hey guys, I'm Jacqueline.
And I'm
and we just got back from the movies. We just saw Bohemian Rhapsody. It was amazing. It really was a great story.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot more than I initially thought that I would.
Yeah.
I kind of went into it like, I was excited to see it, but I feel like I didn't really know much about the backstory of Queen, which was really interesting.
Yeah, well, exactly. We grew up on the music, like we know the music really well, and we do know of Freddie Mercury and all that stuff. So, but like, I guess for us to actually like see the story and watch Freddie Mercury really grow and how Queen was developed and everything, I think was really exciting for us to see. And it was great hearing the music. I love the music.
The music is so much fun.
It was great.
And I thought that all of the actors did a phenomenal job.
Oh my god, the acting in this movie.
It was really good.
Okay, first of all, the casting was spot on.
Yeah.
Like, it was
all around the applause for the casting. Like, that was
the casting was great. Every single actor was fantastic. The actor that played Freddie Mercury, he blew me away. He was phenomenal.
Yeah, he did a great job.
He was so like captivating, and he had that charisma immediately, and it was great. And I love the writing of it. The writing was great, and yeah, we absolutely love this one. If you don't know what it's about, it's basically like Freddie Mercury's story, and it's the development of Queen and how everything came together. We highly recommend going and
definitely go check it out. I think that I definitely give it like, I think an A+.
A+. Yeah, you can't not give this an A+. So like the opening of this was really cool. You had Somebody to Love playing, and then it showed like the shot of him going on stage and from like a back shot, and the crowd is there, and I think it was a really great way because you knew that at the end of the movie that's where we were going to end up being, at that concert at some point. So then it goes back to actually how they got to that point, and we meet them all in college, and we see how they formed a band in the first place.
I really love that scene where he goes up to them, and it's basically like, at first they really didn't want to hear him out. They were just kind of like making fun of his teeth, and then he just starts singing, and that moment, like, he literally just like he literally blew them away, with his voice. And yeah, I really love that scene when he goes out, and it's like,
when he first meets them. It's really cool because they're in college, and I love like watching like the development of like their fashion and like the hair and how more vibrant it gets as they get famous and everything. Like, it was really cool.
The costumes were great.
Yeah, really. First time that they perform in the pub, and you know, at first like the microphone, like he's having trouble with the microphone, people are kind of looking at them funny, and then they start singing, and it captivates the whole audience. And then they figured out, like, they really knew that there was something special here. And then it goes to a year later, and I really liked how they ended up selling the van, and they bought their own time in a recording studio.
Oh yeah, they basically, I love how it was just like risk it all.
Yeah, they were like, let's just do it, we're just gonna do it.
Great, like that mindset.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they had no fear. They just knew that they wanted to sing, they had this talent, and they wanted to share it. I
like the quote that they had said. It was like about the misfits. I don't remember the exact. Yeah, it was like, we're four misfits.
Singing to the other misfits.
Yeah, singing to a bunch of other misfits or something like that.
The
about
outcasts.
Misfits. Yeah, I really love that quote. That was a great quote.
Yeah, that's when they sit down with the manager for the first time, and when they're like, he like says like, you know, like, what are you guys like trying to do here and stuff, and then I love that quote. And that's really what I feel like
that's really what they try to do too, because they always like reach out to the fans, and that was very like important to them to have the fans like be a part of the concert, and I love that, especially like later on when they do We Will Rock You. That was I love that scene. That was probably one of my favorite scenes, the We Will Rock You.
I love how when they came up with the title for Queen, he was like, it's just something outrageous, and the way that he was just laying there with like his cats and stuff, it was just great. I really did like his relationship with Mary. I think that they did that really great, and the way that as the movie progresses, he starts exploring his sexuality, and he starts learning more about himself and everything, but Mary is still such an important person to him.
That's what I love, is that even though they went through all of that together, they still ended up being in each other's life, and through the end, and they were she was still the love of his, like, he still called her his love, and they just I love that they never lost that. They literally just had this bond.
They had that connection.
They had that connection, and that connection was strong enough. Like, they were able to just be there for each other and believe in each other even when they weren't really together anymore. They were happy for each other. Like, eventually Mary
gets pregnant.
She gets pregnant. She ends up with that guy David, and he obviously ends up with the other guy Jim. So they kind of like, they were happy for each other, and we really saw it at the end when like,
they go through
her eyes were tearing up at the end when she saw him, and their relationship, I really enjoyed watching that.
Yeah, like they fought, there was the awkwardness, you know, but they still just had that love and respect for one another, you know. Love the scene though when he did propose to her. I thought that was really cute, because she's like, which finger do I put it on? And she was like so overcome with emotion, you know. And then with the end, towards like the middle half of the movie.
Oh, well, he had said to her though when he put the ring, he's like, promise me you'll never take it off.
Yeah.
And right there,
you
knew.
Like,
obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole story, like she's gonna end up taking the ring off, and
but it was
kind of sad when they saw each other again, and he realized that she wasn't wearing the ring. But it's like, obviously she's not, because you're not together anymore like that. But
the breakup scene, I really like that scene though, because it was so raw.
It was.
And it was emotional, and I love when they're sitting there. It's actually one of my favorite parts of the movie, when they were sitting on the couch, and his couch is just like this humble home. Like, it's not like this mansion that he ends up living in, you know?
It's just with his cats.
He's just him and his cats and Mary. They're just hanging out on the couch, and they're watching one of his concerts, and he's singing with the crowd and stuff, and he's like, I didn't know that anybody was listening to me, and then they started singing, and it's just like,
oh yeah, I got chills with that, because it's like, that's,
I love that. Like, if you guys have ever been to a concert, you know what that's
exactly. Like when the crowd is singing, and like you see the artist's face, and like, that's just
that
like
connection.
I'm sure that connection, and like that feeling's probably like indescribable that they feel like when somebody's singing your words.
Yeah, so I really like that they did mention that, but then he gets more into like a really serious conversation with Mary about his sexuality, because then she really looks at him and she's just like, are you, like, what's wrong? Like, there's something. You're not.
She knew though. She knew deep down, but he needed to say it out loud, and they needed to get that all out. And that was a powerful scene.
And then, because he didn't want to let her go, because he still he does love her in a way, you know, just not.
That's why it was so, that scene was like heartbreaking, because he didn't want to let her go.
When he says to her, when she's like, what do you want from me? And he's just like, almost everything. It's just like, oh, like the writing was so good, and I love that scene. And then of course later on, I love that she's the one that really does get through to him, and she's like, Paul is no good, you know?
I love that she goes back for him, because she was one of the first like people in his life that like believed in him and what he was doing, and so like she was a really big part of that. So it was fitting that she went back and ended up bringing him back and telling him straight up, like, these people don't care about you. You have a family and you have to come home. And yeah, that was a great scene, especially because it was in the rain.
I love the way that the music, it was such a huge part of the story. Like, I love seeing the creative process and how they made the songs and stuff and wrote them together and created the melody.
I love when they were in the recording studio
those were some of my favorite scenes too. Like, I love when they were just hanging out, being friends, and making this music together. But I loved how the music was so important for his life
and his story. Yeah, what he went through, especially in the scene, back to like the breakup scene. That's their song was playing.
Oh my god, the love of my life. That song.
So that just made it like extra just emotional.
Yeah, I love the repetitiveness of some of those songs, because they're so vital to his life. Like, obviously Bohemian Rhapsody, I loved how that song came to be.
That whole scene with Bohemian Rhapsody, and how like the label, the guy who like took care of all that, he told him no, like this is a 6-minute song, we're not doing it. And I love how dramatic it was when they walked out of there. They threw like a rock at the window or something, and he was just like, you're gonna be the one who, like, you said no to Queen. And I love how they showed his face at the end.
Yeah, at the end of the movie when they were performing at that concert. I love that whole scene when they were talking about how great it is and how they were playing opera, and they were like, no, it's still gonna be rock. And the guy at the label is just so confused when he hears this song. He's just like, no, Galileo, what is this?
He's like, we need formulas. It's like,
he's like, what is this? Because
I feel like that's very accurate to like the music.
I mean, yeah, like you hear something like Bohemian Rhapsody, and that song is so popular, and it's such a great song. We love that song, and it's like it's new,
but it's so
it's
different. For that time, especially for that time, that was different.
Exactly, like nobody had ever heard anything like that before. So like his reaction to hearing it was just like, what? Yeah, but when the label was like, you know, what does this mean? Like, what is this? And he's like, it's poetry. It means what it can to the listener. Like, it's for the listener, you know? Like, they could figure out how it means to them. Like, I love the way that they talked about music in this movie. I thought it was really great.
I thought that his relationship with his family was very, very interesting. Especially his relationship with his father, because right away you could tell that his father doesn't believe in what he's doing at all. And it was that whole thing of like, what was it? It was like, yeah, good thoughts, good words, good deeds.
Yeah, and then
that was basically like his father's mantra. That's what he like taught his son to do. And then at the end, like he ended up doing that because it was the concert and it was like charity and everything like that. So he ended up like living like he ended up fulfilling his father's wishes for him, which I thought was really special. Like that hug that they had and everything. I thought
really
it was wrapped up a little quickly with the father.
Yeah, but I think that the whole purpose of it was, you know, it wasn't like Freddie Mercury, his family was his band and his family was music.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, like he created his own definition of family. Like there are various times in this movie when he talks about his family. He's like
talking about the band.
And he's talking about his band and he's talking about that connection that he has with them. And like for this, like the scene in the car when they talk about him going solo, he's like, you want to break up the band, get out of, like you want to break up my family, get out. Like
that he ends up leaving them. But I love the scene when he comes back and they're like giving him a hard time. They're like, can you give us a minute? And then he's like, I just wanted to do that. Like I just felt like it.
And they came in late.
Yeah, they came in late because he like literally came in late like the whole movie.
Yeah. And I loved when they did We Will Rock You.
That was one of my favorite parts of the movie, and how it like transitioned back and forth between them actually performing it. I think it was at like Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
And then to them actually like figuring it out and like creating that idea of like getting the audience involved.
Yeah, and how like I love it the way that they explain that too. They were like, you know, because Freddie Mercury comes, he's like, where's the instruments? Like, you know, why are you guys not playing with instruments? But they're like, no, he's like,
their fans are gonna be the instruments.
Let's do this where everybody can be the instrument. Like, it was just so cool, and I loved how like you would see the audience in the like the way that they transitioned it with the audience stomping and then them stomping.
Yeah, it was so exciting when it was
really cool. Did you guys know Littlefinger was in this movie?
I didn't realize it until later on when he was yelling, because then it looked like Littlefinger to me, and I was like, oh, it is Littlefinger.
I said to myself, as soon as he sat down, I'm looking at this guy, and I'm like, that is Littlefinger. And I said to myself, I'm like, that's Littlefinger from Game of Thrones. And she's just like, no. And I'm like, no, he's from Game of Thrones. Look at him. And then she realized at the end, like, then she whispered over to me when he was yelling at him. He's like, oh my God.
I see it.
There it is. Yeah. That whole thing, like, I hated his relationship with Paul. Like, that was
I never liked him.
Never liked him.
Paul, you could just tell that he didn't have his best interest. He just cared about partying with him and everything, and just like the materialistic idea of him. And
I think exactly, he wanted that lifestyle,
that fame and that lifestyle, exactly, which that's why it was so satisfying when he ends up firing him at the end.
It was like a toxic relationship, but it was also his first like experience like out there with men, you know. And that was really like a huge, it's an important person in his life, Paul, but it was such a toxic, unhealthy relationship that I'm happy that it ended. But it was hard. Like, he really did lose himself for a little bit, you know, like there were drugs and he was drinking a lot, and he really, once he lost the band
his family,
and his family, he was really on his own, and you know, he didn't have that connection in the studio anymore. And but I liked how
well, he had even said when the band like came back and was like hashing everything out, he had said like, you know, I paid these people and I paid these people and they were listening to what I was telling them, but it wasn't them. Like, it wasn't his family. It wasn't them. It wasn't Queen. So.
Exactly. And it was that fight when they ended up breaking up. There was that the moment when they say, I forget who said it, they're all like yelling at each other, and he says, you just killed Queen. And like, that was just like, oh my God. Like, I also really liked when they did Another One Bites the Dust. I love that song too, so that was really cool seeing that get done. And then we go to the press conference. Now, the press conference was, I feel like, that initial moment when he started to let it sink in that he really is famous. And some of the questions that the press people were throwing at him were so nasty, but I love the way that he was answering all of them. Like, they were like, why don't you fix your teeth? And he's like, why don't you have manners? Like, it was just so, the way that was
very accurate.
It is. It's true, and he's just like, this is nobody's business and stuff. And I feel like at that point, that was really when things started to get a little bit scary for him in some ways, you know? And the way that, and then the way that that was filmed, and how, like, you know, it was like blurred out.
And it was like zooming in on his facial expressions.
Yeah. I thought that scene was really well done. And then obviously it was really sad at the end of the movie when he does get diagnosed with AIDS, and there's, you know,
especially the scene when he tells everybody.
Yeah, that was really, really sad. But I liked the scene. I thought there was one specific scene when he was walking down the hallway, and the hallway is very dimly lit, and there's like the patient that's there, and then she sees him, and she like says that like ayo, and he like stops, and he just looks at her, and he repeats it back. Like, I just love that moment. It was like that moment of connection through music again, you know, like they recognize.
Like they didn't need to like talk, they didn't, that was like there, like they just connected, just like that one like sound like that they made, just like I really like that. And I like that was, you know, after he gets diagnosed with that, he's walking down, and you know, you can't even imagine probably what's running through his head, and then to hear that, it's just like a brings you back. I feel like it's like a you're like not alone, you know, thing, it's like, you're not alone, there's other people out there who are going through things, and it was just that moment of that connection, like, exchange, like, and you know, I think it was also a subtle reminder of like who he is too, like, you know, don't let this disease become you, you know, you know, you're still yourself, you're still Freddie Mercury. Like, it was such a small moment in the movie, but I think it was so impactful, and I'm so happy that they put something in like that, because I really love seeing that connection every time he would perform. It was that initial reaction with the crowd, and then that connection that they had. I really loved that. Yeah, but when he tells the band, it was really, really sad. And they're like, you're a legend, and how he really works hard to get his voice sounding good, and he practices so hard for that concert. Of course, that ends up being the last like concert that we see, and it's the beginning of the movie, and I love that whole sequence. I thought it was really great. Yeah, that was so fun. It was like we were literally like at like a mini concert. That was fun. Yeah, with the whole ending. I love the ending shot when you had like the four of them, and then you see like the crowd, and then it just like ended. It's like in slow motion. I wanted to be in that crowd. I really wanted to be in that concert. Like, I wanted to be at one of those concerts so bad. Yeah. I really love though at the end of the movie how the credits was Queen. It started telling us like, you know, what ended up happening. What had him and Mary stayed lifelong friends, and that unfortunately he did die at age 45 of AIDS, and how he ended up with Jim, and there were pictures and stuff of his family, and then you had a little montage of Queen performing, and I love that. I feel like this movie did such a great job of paying tribute to Queen and Freddie Mercury. I think it did too, for sure. It really did. Yeah. So yeah, let us know what your favorite parts were down in the comments below. I know that we're going to be jamming out to Queen now for a while. Yeah, we already did it before on the way home. Let us know what your favorite parts were, and yeah, your favorite songs down in the comments below. Yes, and if you enjoyed this review, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more reviews. You can also follow our Twitter and our Snapchat. We're at City of the Field. Thank you for watching. Thanks for watching. Bye!